Welcome to the new season of the Live Your Spa Life show. The SPA in Spa Life stands for Seek Power Always, that divine power within you to do what you're here to do. The theme for this season is intentional living. Amazing people like you share ways to live by design and with purpose to ensure that this short ride of life occurs with choice, physically, financially, spiritually, and in your relationships to create a world-class life. In these times of uncertainty, it's time for you to move past the distractions and start trusting yourself more through your God-giving knowingness. No one truly knows better what's best for you than you. In this season, you'll have plenty of examples of people choosing their best life and creating a positive impact through intentional living. Thank you for sharing your precious time with us and being part of the Live Your Spa Life conversation. With us today is Donna Martin, known as the Good Life Coach. She is a mindset consultant, speaker, and #1 best-selling author, serving individuals and businesses like you to start living life your way on your terms through the power of mindset. Donna, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me, Diane. I'm absolutely delighted to be on. Thank you.
So great to have you here. I'd love to hear from you. What does the good life mean to you?
So, Dan, the good life for me means literally that it's living my life, my way of my choosing on my own terms with my husband and 3 boys.
I love that so much. You've talked about thinking into results. What is that process, and why is that something you lead with?
For me, so if anybody hasn't come across thinking on the results before, Dan, it's something that changed my life after yet another emotional impact. And I had gone and put Bob Proctor on the TV. If anybody doesn't know, he's big personal development. He passed into the other side last year. But I dipped in and out of the book, The Secret. And after this impact, I just intuitively knew my cousin was speaking to me, and I put him on the TV and I just asked for guidance. I listened. I took what I needed. I fed my soul through this process. And thinking on the results, my mentor then showed the way, and this completely transformed my life. Along with NLP, this was the foundations. It was a blueprint really for success, and I followed it to the latter. And in an instant of starting that, I knew then I wanted to be a consultant. So it's just transformed my life, Dan, really.
I love that. We all talk about having success habits, and part of that is being able to make decisions. And one of the questions that you ask is, how good are you at making decisions? Why is this important, and how do you go about making decisions?
So that's really good, Diane, actually, because that's what I talk about a lot. And decision making, it's the #1 thing. If you don't set goals, if you don't have clarity, if you don't have a destination or understand where you're going, then you're walking around with blinkers on, no destination, no clear device. And when you understand mindset, as in your mind is in every cell of your body, that it is energy, that we are made of energy, and that we are magnetized. When you understand that defining what it is that you want and getting clarity, it makes it easier to make a decision. And the most successful people in the world make decisions quick and change them rarely, if at all, because they have a clear vision already of where they're going. That's where the visualization, that's where a goal or an ask comes in. But that gives you that knowing from within, that internal, when you know what your desire is, when you know what it is that you want, you're able to make that decision, and you're able to have that knowing and stand with them with the confidence of you. But people that are unsuccessful, Diane, they make decisions really slowly, and they change them quick and often, flitting from here to there. I'll try this, a magic pill, a silver bullet. And they're always chopping and changing. That leads to frustration, anxiety, distress, and you're going the whole way down that vibrational spiral. So that's why understanding that the reason behind decision making is so important.
Right. I love these distinctions. It, reminds me of the book, The 5 Second Rule with Mel Robbins, where she talks about if you hesitate for even 5 seconds, that's when you start doubting yourself, you start procrastinating, and you start down this rabbit hole of what goes on. And, I know from a practical standpoint, when I worked undercover with the police department, I had to make, quick decisions for my safety and for the safety of others. And so, these are the things that, I talk to people about when it comes to consulting, because sometimes people don't realize, making those quick decisions are so important. And when you kind of peek behind the curtain and you look at knowing what your values are, knowing what your boundaries are, and knowing what you stand about and what you're talking about in terms of having like clarity, that is the things that is the secret sauce that allows you to make those decisions quicker, because you know what you're making those decisions on and what you're basing those on. I think sometimes when people get into trouble is when they start second guessing those decisions, right? And so I love when you're talking about how, even when you go back and look at it, that first instinctual decision is typically the best decision to make. What would you share with our listeners about when you start kind of second guessing decisions?
Well, so first of all, we have one of our 6 higher faculties that we all have, and this is what we talk about in Thinking Under Results, but one of them is your intuition. And your intuition is, some people call it your moral guidance, your moral compass, but it's that initial gut feeling. It's that initial telling of something, whether it's something good, whether it's something bad. But your intuition, its only function is to steer you in the right direction to your higher self, to a higher version of you, so that you can fulfill your purpose. So in that, it's about instinctively tuning into yourself. It's self-awareness. And I talk about this a lot. We are all exactly where we're meant to be right now in this moment in time. And if you imagine this never-ending ladder, it's always going, and you're on your level right now at this moment. And as you grow, as you tune into yourself, as you learn about yourself, as you go through and think into results, gain that clarity, gain them tools, gain that understanding of self-awareness, self-development, you are able to tune into your intuition instinctively and actually make those decisions a lot quicker with a certainty. Because people, Diane, are always saying, I have no confidence, I have imposter syndrome, I'm always procrastinating, I don't think that I'm good enough, I don't have enough self-belief. But when they understand about themselves and understand that we have everything we need within us, it's just a matter of pulling the curtain back. And you do that through self-awareness, through raising that awareness and developing yourself. That's the key to everything. That's where it comes from. That's being your authentic self, living your good life, what it means for you, not what it means for someone on social media or your neighbor or your granny or your aunt. It's, what do you want? What's a good life look like for you?
Right. Well, I love that, because, what you refer to as the good life, we talk about here as being spa life, right? And the SPA in spa life is seek power always. And it is that internal power within us. I mean, we have this divine, you talk about compass, intuition. Some people talk about discernment, right? We are led when we listen to, our inner knowing. And, so many times people don't listen to that and they ignore that. And that's a lot of times when they'll get off path. Why do you think sometimes people don't realize that power within themselves?
For that reason, and I've been there myself, and that's what I talk about in my book chapter, The Awakened Warrior Toolkit, Dan, because for a time I thought I was tuned in, and then so much happened that I switched off. I turned to drink, I turned to drugs, I turned to not tuning under myself, because I didn't want to pay attention, because I had done it for a short time, didn't see the results. Then something else happened, and then I was like, nah, this isn't my life. This doesn't make sense. This isn't for real. But when you actually join the dots and look back at your self-destructive and down the rabbit hole, and join the dots then to how you come back out of that hole, how you come back to living a full life, things begin to make sense. But everything begins and ends within you. And that's what my mentor, Bob Proctor, always said. You are your only problem, and you're also your only solution. And when you take away ego, when you take away other people's opinions, understand that they're none of your business, when you simply sit with yourself, look in the mirror, auto-suggestion, when you understand, looking at you, that you have everything that comes from you, you will start intuitively getting ideas. You will be inspired. You will just have that urge to connect with someone, reach out to someone on social media, pick up your phone and ring someone that you haven't talked to in a while, actually go over and stop someone in the street that you haven't spoken to. You will have this overwhelming urge from within. You will have repetitive ideas. You will start. You're always being guided in the right direction, Diane, but it's when we have a choice, we have an intellect, and that's the thing. Right. We have the choice to understand, to choose, if you like.
Right, right. You know, it's such an important thing to, always reflect on, is that so many times people look at all these things that are happening in the world and in our neighborhoods and look at like, oh, this is happening to me. And, I always love that perspective about things happening for us, and that even our darkest moments have a message for us. And we get to actually, you talk about choosing, right? We get to make these decisions. That's what's the beauty of having, free will and being human, is being able to have that discernment and being able to choose. And so many times, some of our whether it's negative self-talk or destructive behaviors or things along those lines, a lot of times it's because things that other people have said that we've taken on as ourselves, or different belief systems, or things that we are taking, without asking, like, is it true? Right. And whether it's true for the world or for your neighbor, it's like, is it true for you? And when you come and you start really distilling and breaking some of those things down, you're able to then get really clear on what is that good life you want to live? How do you want to make your decisions? What kind of impact that you want to make? So as you were going through some of these things, one of the things we like to talk about is, what does that journey look like? Like, what are some of the things that, either disempowered you or weren't working for you just along your journey? Like, what were some of the things that you felt were taking your power away?
I was in the spiral of the blame game, because through different emotional impacts throughout my lifetime, I led them back to other people left, other people done this, other people, this happened to me. This is where I was put, but I wasn't the cause. And that's a big thing to kind of unwrap in itself, Diane. But whenever you're kind of saying, right, okay, maybe the scenario that I was in it, but I didn't cause all these people to do whatever. But when you kind of say, okay, so what was my vibration? What story loop was I sitting in? Because one of my story loops was, I was in terror, I was in fear, I was afraid to see what damage would be done to my property. I was afraid to see who would be hanging around. I was definite. I had known. I was like, they're just going to be there. People are just, I had myself in this story loop of this fear factor. So whenever I get home, no surprise, people were exactly where I said they were going to be. They were doing exactly what I said they were going to do, because I was filled with the dread of fear. But if you go back to the first law, the law of vibration, that we are all magnetized, that we attract like energies, when you understand. But this was a remit, a pattern, because we're programmed. And this was just a habitual behavior. I was in a story of victimhood. Now, this is just me, Diane. You take what you want out of it, you leave the rest. My story of me, I sat in the victimhood per me, and I didn't know how to get out, because we don't know what we don't know. And that's at all times. But when I started then kind of being fed up of feeling that feeling, I started asking a different question. Instead of why me, why is this happening to me? I started asking, I've had enough. I don't want to feel like this anymore. What do I need to do now? Show me a way. And that was the difference of sitting in a story loop for too long until I sickened myself, and then saying, okay, I need to ask a different question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so interesting that we talk about the stories that we tell ourselves, right? And it
Yeah.
comes back to that, is it true? And we actually get to make another choice. So if something's not working, I love how you
Yeah.
were sharing that you didn't necessarily know what the next step is, because when you're in fear, when you're in disempowerment, when you're in those kind of things, it can be
Yeah.
hard to look beyond that to see, what is life, if I didn't have this, or what that would look like. And so
Mm.
I love the starting point of just asking yourself a better question, right? And
Yeah.
so whether we can, walk through some of that through self-discovery, or we have, a coach or consultant who we're working with, that we can bounce these things
Mm.
off, because, having somebody else see the blind spots that we're not seeing can be so helpful, as we're going through that. Because sometimes when we're so mired in something, we don't necessarily see that. So
Yeah.
on the other side of that, about when you were fully in your power, I'd love for you to talk about, like, when you were writing your book chapter, because you had many awakenings, around that. I'd
Mm.
love for you to share, like, how that occurred from you, and what happened.
Yeah, so for me, the book chapter, it was always something that I knew, it was on my radar, it was in the background. And talk about quick decision making. When I finally made a decision and said, right, okay, I'm actually going to make this happen, it wasn't that it was going to be part of a book collaboration. I just said, it's my time. I find it therapeutic. It's like journaling. And I just said, okay, I'm ready to tell this part of my story. And I just started writing. And then in that time of making that decision, telling the universe, okay, I'm going to do this, and actually starting writing it, this completely shifted my vibration, and I attracted the right people to make that happen. But and it happened very quickly. It happened within months, and it was straight in. It was done with ease and flow. I loved the process, and it went straight in at number one in 8 categories. And you were just going, oh my God, that's how many people in the world is that going to help, along with everybody else, to empower as Waking Warriors, because we all have that. But it was the power of actually journaling, putting it on paper, getting that. I was done with holding that energy, if you like, in me. So I felt so empowered then. I was like, oh my God. And it was only through putting it on paper and actually seeing it down, I was like, ah, how interesting is that? Because I share my tools, and one of the tools is about intuition, because it'll never steer you wrong. Trust your gut, trust your inner knowing, pay attention and ask. And they were in my truth and my power, Dan. I was like, oh, and it was like you could breathe because you had it out there, and you knew that it was part of my purpose, part of why I was here, because you can only look back and join the dots to go, that happened. That needed to happen for me to do
Yeah.
this, to go on to this. And that was so empowering to me. And then it was reflecting back on, oh wow. And that just literally, my self-awareness went from there right up again. I was on a different standard, a different level of me, in how I was showing up in the world then, and how I was showing up as a good life coach, coming out there and putting myself out there to share my wisdom and utilize the tools, really. Yeah.
Right. Donna, I think this is amazing how things just start revealing themselves when you start asking better questions, when you
Yeah.
start, realizing that you are the expert of you. And there's so many times where we, delegate that power, and we think that, a doctor knows better, or attorney, or the
Yeah.
government, or whatever these things are out there. And then when you look at it, you're like, wait a minute, they don't know
Hold on.
better than me, what I need for my life and what's going on. And it just, when you stop and you look at that, it's so ridiculous to really, like, give your power away to someone
Oh.
who doesn't necessarily have your best interest. You know what
Mm.
your family needs, what you need, what kind of impact you want to make in the world. And of course we can collaborate with other people, and it's so great to be able to share different ideas. But at the end of the day, there's just me, myself, and I in the room, and we have to make those clear decisions about what that looks like, and to trust that, and to know that you are the
Yeah.
authority in your own life. So, I'd love to just kind of go back around here about, so why do you do what you do?
Because when I was at my lowest, I didn't know that we had a choice. I had qualified as a nurse, done a nursing degree, and I didn't realize that your thoughts combined with your feelings create your actions and magnetize more of the same, and that's just it. I didn't have the awareness and understanding that, yes, I have an intellect and that I can choose how long I'm on it. That's BS. I do not accept that, or I refuse that. Hell no, this is not working. I did not know that. And I was like, how did I do a degree as a nurse? How am I physically helping people? How am I doing all this? And I didn't know that about me. And that just was like, it was just explosions, bombs going off everywhere. And I was like, no. So for me now, why I do what I do, Dan, is because nobody needs to suffer. Nobody needs to continue a life in a world of pain thinking, this is my lot, this is all I deserve. I grew up in this, so this is how my life looks, or this happened to me. I'm just not meant for anymore. This is my life mapped out for me. I'm here to tell you, absolutely no. You can do, be, have whatever it is that you choose for your good life, how you want to live your life, completely your way, on your own terms, doing what you love, your passion, your purpose, what fills you up. Not everybody wants to be a multimillionaire. Not everybody wants to have a Ferrari. Not everybody wants to be a coach. Some people just, they have a clear vision. And maybe, I don't know, Dan, if it's sometimes to do with social media or that, they think, is this a big enough dream? Am I really? But we all want different things. We all desire different things. And the most of that comes back to a resting state of happiness, peace, contentment. And that all begins with self-awareness, knowing and understanding you, how you operate. And it comes back to self-love, self-worth, and knowing that you have everything you need within you. And that's what a coach does. That's what mentoring does. It helps bring qualities out of you that you didn't know that you had. That's what my mentor done for me. And that's why I do what I do now.
That's so great. It reminds me of the comparison game. I mean, sometimes, people are like, oh, why don't you go for this or whatever you want to have. Well, that's not maybe your path or your goal or what'll make you happy. So that's part of that, getting clear on what your belief systems are, what do you value, who do you want to spend your time with, right? And when you really look at, the importance of the people in your life and what kind of impact you want to have, then you can start building around that. What does my day-to-day look like? What's going to be important to me? What kind of legacy and impact do I want to have? And, start going from that perspective. Donna, when you talk about the Good Life 22, what's the significance of 22?
So the significance of 22, Dan, for me, is when we had our last emotional impact in December 2020, it catapulted us into a whole other realm. So I could have easily spiraled and went down a rabbit hole, but I didn't. And I would be big spiritually, and the angels and things like that, always ask for guidance, shut myself off for a while. But when that happened, I started asking for answers, and I have a book, an angel book with numbers. And I have it nearly 20 years. It's fallen to bits, and the number 22 started showing up. I mean, everywhere, all around my radar. It was on tags, on clothes, it was on stickies. The boys started putting fridge magnets with 2 and 2 beside each other. And the meaning of it is, my deep conviction manifests miracles and wonderful new opportunities. And I added in, I always keep the faith. So that is one of my mantras, along with living my life my way on my own terms. That's the definition for me, and that is what helped save me. That's what kept me going on my darkest days, and that's where that came from.
I love that. I definitely believe that, God and the angels, they conspire for us. If we ask the questions, that they are there to help us. And it's so important to know, we aren't alone. And I think that is one of the things that came out of, the crazy shutdowns of the last few years of, isolating people, and people realizing that, this is why there was so much suicide and depression and people second guessing themselves and all of that, because they were so isolated that they believed the things that people were telling them that just led to more fear, and so for people to really be able to step out of that and go, wait a minute, I get to choose the life I live. If fear's showing up, what's behind that, and asking those better questions and being able to look at it from that perspective. So we actually get to create the life that we want, which reminds me, one of the questions I love asking my guests is that, we live differently in our bedroom versus our kitchen or our office, right? We get to create those things because there's different experiences in those different rooms. What's your favorite room in your home and why?
Oh, my favorite room in my home it's actually out in the conservatory, because no matter whether it is rain, hail, snow, sun is shining, it always holds like this envelope of warmth, and it's always beautiful in all seasons. It looks out to the garden. You can change your view. I love plants. I love nature. I love a lot of grounding. I love, you would find me there just staring at the sky. That's one of the things that I do with my kids all the time. Isn't this a gorgeous sky? I love sunrise, sunset. I love the formations. I love just everything. And that is the view. That is what fills me up, Diane. That is just give me bright lights, sunny days, just earth, beauty, natural. And it's in the conservatory because you're surrounded by glass. So yeah, that's my favorite room.
That's so great. I mean, there's nothing like nature that is a reflection of, of what God created for us, about just the beauty in nature. I mean, if you're not a believer, you just have to look to nature to go, who could create that, right? Like what could actually be the unfolding of a flower, right? I mean, there's so many simplicities, things in beauty and appreciation, and just how that energy really affects people in so many different ways. And, it's one thing to be building a business, but you are also building humans. You are the, I love that joke when it says, I've made my own people, right? And,
very true. I've made 3 of my own people.
Right? And so as a mom of 3 boys, what's it like being a mom of boys, for one, and how are you sharing, your journey with them?
Yeah. I'm mom of 3 boys. Whether you have boys, girls, or whether you have kids in general, it is just bananas. I shared with you before the start of this, I had the dinner on and I burnt a pot of rice. So literally I was scraping off burnt rice. This is the mommy mode, and this getting the smell of burnt rice out of the house. But in general, actually, because my oldest boy, Ollie, just turned 10 there on Saturday, and the universal laws is something that I also teach as well. And one of the universal laws, Dan, is the law of cause and effect. So it's like the boomerang effect. So my 10-year-old, I always say to him, you remember, Ollie. And my other 2 boys, Louis is turning 4 and Leo was turning 6. So I'll say to them, you're the cause. So whatever you're putting out there, the effect is going to come back and slap you upside the head. So even in school, he will teach and talk to his friends about the boomerang effect. If something happens in school, so they had a sub teacher in there a couple of months ago, and the lads were tricking them to get extra dojo points so that they could get like homework passes and stuff. And Ollie came back to me and says, Mommy, can I tell you something? I said, yeah, of course. And he goes, the lads tricked the sub teacher and we earned these extra points. He says, but that's going to come back to us because we didn't earn them fairly. And it's just like
out of the mouths of babes.
With so much gratitude, Dan, because that's it. He knew in his vibration and his energy and his gut and his intuition, he knew the universal law, the boomerang. He was saying, Mommy, that's going to come back around on us. They cheated, like they didn't do it fair. So that doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't feel right in my body. And I was like, brilliant. Thanks for telling me. We can do something about it. But that's, my kids aren't going to have to, yes, they'll go through things as they show up, but they're never going to have to go through half the stuff that I went through growing up or in my 20s or 30s, because they are going to have more self-awareness. They learn what I am teaching. They understand about goals. They understand about quick decisions. They understand about intentional living. If something happens, I get them to go away, process, stand in the shower, let the water rain down, go to where the feeling is in their body, to release. I'll do tapping work with them. I'll do grounding. I'll do star jumps. I created the Good Life 3 hours to release, reset, and reboot. And this is one that we do in the car if we've had a crazy morning, to release the stagnant energy and reboot, so that they're going into school in a better energy and vibration, and that I own my stuff as well, Dan, because they call me out and stuff. They're like, Mommy, what's your mood now? Mommy, what kind of mood is that? You need to shift that. So they're calling me out.
Nothing teaches us more than our children, right? About where we're at and where we need to shift. So that's so awesome.
Completely. So
I love it.
They're learning, yeah.
So good. Well, I know our listeners are going to want to stay in contact with you. How can they best do that, Donna?
Yeah, perfect. So at the moment, you can find me on LinkedIn, and I do a weekly audio room chatting all things business, mindset, and being your authentic self with my co-host NAO Song. So that's a great one to come in and share and deep dive in. So you can find me on the Good Life, or on the LinkedIn, and that's Donna Martin, the Good Life Coach. And you can also find me I have a private group down on Facebook called the Good Life 22 Community. You can find me there. I also have a business page on there, and I'm on Instagram. So yeah.
Great. Well, I invite our listeners to go to Donna's her LinkedIn and just listen to her introductory video, because this just warmed my heart, because she's like explaining about what she does and her business, and her kids are like in the background, and they're like talking and laughing, and all these things are going on. And I thought this is such a perfect thing, because we always look at like, oh, we want it to be super quiet, or you separate the kids from your life, and it was just such a warm way to get to know you and just be so inviting. Is like, this is my life.
Thanks.
Oh, it's so good. Well, as you know, our theme for this season is intentional living. So in what way are you living an intentional life today?
I absolutely love that, Dan. Intentional living for me is, oh my God, it's key. It's everything. So I will set my intention the night before, always, as in I will do, yes, my physical tasks out for the next day to take me toward my goal. But I will set the intention, and it's something I've done from nursing. I'll decide what way I want my day to go, and it's always with the ease and flow, giving thanks, giving gratitude. And then as my day flows, I'll set my intention for my week, for my month, for my year. I'll do like a love letter to myself of thanks and gratitude of all the things that I've achieved for the year. I'll read it at the end of the year, and then I'll go into the next year. So it's about being intentional about every day. I check in with me. What's my vibe? How am I showing up? How am I serving? How am I radiating and being a good ripple effect for other people? And that's especially with my kids. So intentional living is something that I am a huge advocate. If you have no intention for living, you're just cruising along with a blindfold on. So set your intention that you want your day to go with ease and flow, or with abundance, prosperity, love, gratitude, health, whatever it is. Yeah. So intentional living for me is being present and being my authentic self.
I love it. Well, Donna, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing your
so
wisdom.
Welcome. Thank you. It was brilliant. Thanks.
You got it. And to our listeners out there, how are you living the good life? Like, are you having intentional choosing of what you're doing? Are you letting yourself just kind of fly in the wind with everything that's happening around you? This is a great time to share this episode, to have some self-reflection, to decide, how are you want to live your intentional life? So until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.